Okay, this is a video tutorial on how to create this little portrait, quote portrait. So we're going to do a practice run. So on Google Classroom, you can save this picture of this guy. If you don't use this picture, you just need to use or find a high quality portrait picture of somebody. So right click and save it to your computer, wherever you can save it quickly. And then we're gonna go to Photopea. So you're gonna do File Open, and then open your picture in Photopea. All right, we are going to make this a black and white picture, just like this one. And so how you do that, go Image, Adjustments, and then you're gonna go in this second section, black and white. You don't have to toggle with any of this stuff, just click OK. Then we're gonna go Image again, Adjustments again, and you're going to do brightness and contrast this time. But we are going to toggle with this. You can mess with the brightness, make it be a little bit brighter, but the main thing I want is the contrast. We are going to boost the contrast. So darks are going to get darker, lights will get lighter, so we have a nice contrast picture. Click OK when you have it how you want it. And then the next thing we're going to do is create sort of a gradated frame around this called a vignette. So to do this, by the way, you should only have one layer here, so we only have our background layer. To do this little vignette looking thing, we are going to double click on the little mini picture in the layers bar. So it's got to be on the picture, double click. This window should come up. You are going to first select gradient overlay, so click it and then it'll check it for you. So I actually just clicked the checkbox one time and it didn't select it, so make sure this is selected and it's checkboxed. So we're going to go through and change all of this. Blend mode is going to be multiply. Then we are going to check reverse. So we're going to do reverse. And then the style we want to make sure is radial, so it's kind of going out from a center point. So then the scale, we don't want it too, like this is too much. We want to just a little bit of that vignette style. Okay, so once you have it how you want it, click OK. This just again makes our image more dramatic. All right, now we are going to add that black box over our image, and to do this we're going to click the rectangle tool here, or the shape tool. The fill color is just going to be black. You can do a different color for the final, but just for the sake of the practice, we'll just do black. Then with your cursor, grab from the corner and drag your box so it's over half of your person's face. Then release it, and we have our box. So right now we need to rasterize this, so go ahead and in the layers bar, right click and rasterize so that we can work with it easier. Okay, now we are going to add our text. So for the sake of this tutorial, we're just all going to do the same one unless you have a quick quote that you have just off the top of your head. But my quote is going to be, "No fate but what we make." Now we're going to switch to the text tool, but we're not just going to type the whole thing all the same size. I want each word to be different. So we're going to have a variety of sizes, but we're going to use the same font. So this will make sense in just a second. To make this successful, the letters need to be thicker so that we see through to the image really well. So don't choose a font that's really thin. Oops. You are going to choose a font that has some thickness to it. So I'm just using this Distant Galaxy. So it's kind of like rip off of Star Wars. Okay, then your color for your font, make sure it's white because it doesn't really matter, but that's the easiest to see. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and then I'm going to type my first word, so no. And then with the move tool, I'm going to move this down. Yours might be like super small. So with the move tool, you're going to grab from the corner and make it nice and big. We are going to make our quote fill this entire rectangle. So it's got to take up the entire thing. And I'm going to place it where I want it. It's a little bit big. Okay, so no. My next letter or word is fate. So no fate but what we make. Fate, but I'm going to switch to the move tool and I'm going to make this more squatty. So I hold down shift on my keyboard, I'm going to make this a little more squatty, and then I will bring this in just a little bit. So variety of sizes and placement and all that. A little bit smaller. Okay. Then I'm going to type out the rest. So no fate but what we make. All right, I have a sample I already started here just to make it easier and quicker. All right, so you're going to type out the whole thing. You can see I have a variety of, it being squatty and longer and sizing, but you want to just make sure it fills the entire thing. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, but once you get it, it'll be smooth sailing. So we're going to delete away the white of the letters so that we can see through to our original image. So in our layers bar, go ahead and select no, which is our first word, and then you're going to switch to the magic wand tool, and we're going to select the N in no. So go ahead and click inside the N. You should have the selection dots come up around your N. Then, very important, switch to the rectangle, like the shape that we made, and then we're going to cut out the white of the letters. And basically the outline of the N onto this shape. So this is still selected, and to cut pixels, which is exactly what we're going to do, on your keyboard you're going to do Command or Control X. So Control X, it doesn't look like it did anything, but when I look at this tiny little preview, I can see that it cut out the pixels. So I can also double check if I select this layer again and turn off this little eyeball, I can see now through to the original image. All right, so I'll show you one more time. You are going to use the magic wand, select your letter. So I have the O selected now. I'm going to switch to my rectangle and then Command or Control X to cut those pixels. And then I can turn off the eyeball and I can see through to his forehead. When you're done with a word, you can delete that layer because we don't need it anymore. So you can go ahead and, and I have to deselect. So I'm going to do Command D to get rid of that selection. Otherwise, it won't let me do some things. So no, and then I can just on my keyboard press delete and it gets rid of it. And you're going to go through and do that for all of these, every single letter. Okay. So eventually you'll see through to all of it. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show you the last step. If your image is kind of dark and you can't see through very well because it's very dark, I'm going to show you how to lighten your picture on this one side. So go ahead and select the background layer, and we're going to lighten just these parts that the letters show through to. So sometimes like the N might be super dark depending on how big you did your vignette. So a tool that I'm going to show you, if you go to this little magnifying looking glass thing, this is the dodge tool. So if you click and hold down, there's dodge, burn, and sponge tool. We're using the dodge, and this lightens things gradually. This is good for photography. So dodge tool, go ahead and use the brackets, make it bigger, and then up here, you can lower the hardness a little bit. You don't have to. But we are just going to lighten some of the areas so that we can see through. So if I, again, make sure you're on the background layer, if I click and hold down, it kind of starts painting it. And it lightens it up so that we can see through to the bottom. Now don't go crazy with it. We don't need to go crazy. Just enough so that we can eventually read it because sometimes they are kind of hard to read. That is it. So once you're done, you should have something like this. Go ahead and file, export as a JPEG or a PNG, and you can turn this into the practice.